Omaha's news leader, chronicling the stories and people making a difference in our community. This is KETV News Watch 7's Chronicle.
The current estimate is that the 1918 pandemic killed at least 50 million people. Some say as many as 100 million people, but certainly at least 50 million people. And that makes it the deadliest single event in all recorded human history.
All right, think about that. A virus which mutated from birds to humans 100 years ago. A virus that affected 1/3 of the world's population. A virus that experts warn will mutate yet again and kill millions more. Good morning, everyone. I'm Rob McCartney, and today on Chronicle, we're taking an in-depth look at the 1918 flu pandemic. We'll explore the history of the outbreak, uncover what the future may hold, and examine how it impacted businesses both then and now. First, a few facts about the pandemic. It killed an estimated 675,000 Americans, many of them soldiers headed overseas. But because World War I was raging and the Allies didn't want to appear weak, no one reported the deaths until the virus hit Spain, which was neutral and didn't have press restrictions. So when the flu decimated Madrid, word got out and it was nicknamed the Spanish flu. More soldiers died from the flu than were killed during all the battles of 1918, creating a legacy that looms large even today.
It was a terrible thing, and lots of people died from it in that time.
Making a bad situation even worse, there was a shortage of medical personnel because so many doctors and nurses were serving in World War I. And joining me now to talk more about the pandemic and its impact is John Schleicher. He's an independent medical historian and a professor. Good morning. Thanks for joining us, John.
Good morning, Rob. Thanks for having me.
There have been flus in world history. What makes this one so different?
This, as we said in the opening, this is the largest number of people ever affected by a human disease in world history. This was something that also was compounded by the war and the fact that we have people traveling all over the United States, all over the world. And also it really affected, it didn't affect the people that normally are affected by it, usually the youngest children and elderly, but in this case it affected 20 to 40-year-olds primarily. So the population that it hit was much different than previous epidemics.
Right. I understand there was something like a cytokine storm where it hits the immune system, right, of healthy people, and it hits even harder then.
Right. So oftentimes it was not known. People thought that you had the pneumonia, and that actually that's what will kill you in the end, is that your lungs filled with fluid and there were pneumonia-like symptoms. So it was often called pneumonia in the press before they knew what it was exactly.
And I understand the first recorded victim in the U.S. was an Army cook in Fort Riley, Kansas. You mentioned World War I. I mean, is the whole military and all the soldiers being together, does that play into this?
Right. So really throughout world history and military campaigns, you're bringing people in often from many different places. So you're assembling a large army to fight a war. All those people from various places, whether they're from a country town in Nebraska or Omaha, they are going to go meet up with soldiers from all over the rest of the United States, and you have different viruses and different things that come together. And disease is one of the big killers in the war, in the time of war also. So.
And I understand there were actually 2 waves of the flu, is that right? The one hit early in the year?
Right, so there were 2 waves really from 1918 through 1920. Okay. There were several waves, and in Omaha, of course, and nationally, the October to December 1918 was the worst time period, but there were some later waves as well.
There was no vaccine at the time, right, for this?
No vaccine. Some local physicians tried to put together some kind of a vaccine, and researchers, but they weren't very effective at all. Even if they gave them, they really didn't do much to prevent it or help keep it from worsening.
So if someone in your family came down with the symptoms, was that basically, for lack of a better term, the kiss of death for your family?
It could be oftentimes. So if you are in close living conditions with family, you probably are going to expose maybe not the whole family, depending upon who has the strongest, resistance to disease, but probably a lot of family members will pass away from the flu.
How did it affect Omaha and Nebraska, this area?
Right. Well, we are, of course, Union Pacific and Burlington were a major train, transportation hub at that time. We've got people going east-west, especially with the war situation, people coming, going daily in Omaha. So that's really what brought the flu here, and you can really follow the flu cases across the state on the railroad lines. I mean, by the time it gets out west to western Nebraska. In Omaha, as in a lot of places, public gatherings ceased. I mean, they were banned. Churches, schools, theaters, movie theaters, live theater, dance halls, which you don't normally think of today, and eventually they said any public gathering was anything of 12 people or more. So even the courts were closed because, of course, it'd just be the jury and the judge would make 13. So.
Well, the criminals love that, I bet, yeah. So what about businesses? I mean, surely it impacted business and all kinds of commercial activity.
Right, especially those businesses that we mentioned, dance hall kinds of things,
right.
Saloons, movie theaters, but businesses were also urged to open late and close early. They were also worried about just the number of workers that were out sick. So in Omaha, anywhere from 8 to 30% of workers in the packing houses, there were 4 major packing houses at the time, were out with the flu. So that was one industry that was hurt very hard.
And how did the virus end? How did the pandemic end? Did it just morph its way into another?
That's a good question also. So really in our part of the country, by around January 1919, it basically just, the cases were going fewer and fewer, and it just basically went away. I mean, there were other waves of the flu, but not as bad in 1920, 1920, but just
may have just mutated its way into another. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And are there any takeaways? I mean, it's 100 years now. Is there anything that we can learn from 1918 here in 2018?
Right. Takeaways. Obviously, we have much better, medical care today, modern medical care, but right. Things like the masks. They wore gauze masks in World War I, which were really not effective. People wore them in public, but they wouldn't keep them on when they got home. So you're communicating that to your family members again. So, but there's just a much better public health infrastructure today. And so I think with other things like the swine flu in the 70s, we've seen more of a rallying to do more things. But also think of, we travel so much more freely with airplanes and from someplace around the world today than just on a train. So any kind of, flu could spread much faster, I'm sure, with today's.
That's kind of scary sitting out there. Hey, John, I appreciate you coming in this morning, and the historical aspect of it is fascinating. So time for us to take a break, though. And when we come back, though, we're going to take a look at what the future may hold.
Everybody in the flu vaccine sector in the World Health Organization, they're all looking for the next pandemic of influenza. Everybody's afraid that one is going to come, and we're not going to know how to respond to it.
So how prepared are we? Find out when KETV News Watch 7's Chronicle continues.
When you have very infectious agents, no immediately available cure or prevention mechanism that kills 50, 60, 70% of the people that are infected in the field, you have a potential for a disastrous epidemic or pandemic.
Which is why UNMC and Nebraska Medicine building a National Center for Health Security and Biopreparedness, making Omaha the epicenter for highly infectious disease control and education. Welcome back to KETV News Watch 7's Chronicle. This morning, we're examining the deadly 1918 flu pandemic and the next possible outbreak. Joining me now to talk more about that is Dr. Ted Cieslak. He's medical director of UNMC's quarantine unit, the medical co-director of the Nebraska Biocontainment Unit, and associate director of the Center for Biosecurity, Biopreparedness, and Emerging Infectious Diseases. A man with many titles. And doctor, I imagine your business card must be about like 1.5 feet long, but you have a lot of knowledge about what that next big threat could be. First, I want to ask you briefly, what is a pandemic for everybody?
So thanks, Rob. So a pandemic is basically just a large epidemic. It's an epidemic with the potential to affect the entire globe.
Okay. How likely is it that we'll see another one? We were talking to John earlier about, our practices are better. So what are the chances we'll see another pandemic?
Well, we'll clearly see more pandemics. So we know with influenza alone that pandemics occur with some regularity, roughly once every dozen or so years. We hope that we'll never see a pandemic as devastating as the 1918 flu pandemic.
How big of a threat is that? So it's always there?
Yeah, I would classify it as one of those low probability but very high consequence events. So I think we have a lot of factors working in our favor that would mitigate against a pandemic that devastating. And you heard already that occurred on the heels of World War I, when public health systems throughout the world had been devastated, and that clearly contributed to some of the mortality. Hopefully the next pandemic won't strike under similar circumstances. So I think 1918 was a perfect storm, and hopefully that won't happen again. But I think we have to be prepared.
So we didn't have vaccines. We didn't have, you know, the medicine that we have now. So how can it keep coming? How can a pandemic spread?
So influenza is a peculiar virus in the sense that it mutates pretty freely. So some viruses do that and some don't. And measles and mumps, for example, are diseases that don't, and so consequently the same measles vaccine, the same mumps vaccine that we used 60 years ago are still effective today. Influenza, on the other hand, mutates very freely, and so the vaccine that was effective last year might not be effective this year. And what happens in a pandemic is there's a large-scale mutation that essentially renders your previous immunity inconsequential in this disease. So a pandemic occurs when a new virus appears that no one in the world is immune to.
Can it mutate so quickly that it changes within season?
It can, certainly, and in the 2009 swine flu pandemic, that in essence happened. We had that new strain, and we also had circulating traditional strains of influenza.
All right, you are the Associate Director for the Center for Biosecurity, Biopreparedness, and Emerging Infectious Diseases. The reason I bring that up, because I want to know what that means. What does that job entail?
So we have a multidisciplinary center within the university that handles issues, as the name implies, dealing with biosecurity and biopreparedness and emerging infectious disease. The biggest single entity within that center is our Center for Preparedness Education. And the mission of the Center for Preparedness Education is mainly here within the state of Nebraska. We have a grant through the Hospital Preparedness Program, and we send teams out to towns throughout Nebraska and teach hospital personnel about preparedness.
Of course, everybody remembers the Ebola scare and the Ebola, not even scare, threat, reality. I mean, patients came here. How did you play into that?
So here at Nebraska, we had one of the 3 biocontainment units that were in existence at that time. And we got the call from the State Department asking if we were ready to accept patients, and we did. And we received 3 of the 11 Ebola victims that were cared for in this country. And 2 of those survived. The third one, unfortunately, arrived already in extremis and unfortunately passed away. But so we have experience with 3 patients.
Right. Well, that's more than many people have. Was it just tremendous forethought that led to the biocontainment unit being up and running?
No, I have to give all the credit in the world to Phil Smith. He was the visionary who conceived of this unit. So in the aftermath of the 9/11 attacks and of the anthrax attacks that followed soon after, he saw the need for a system a facility where we could manage these highly hazardous infectious diseases, and applied for some grant money and was awarded that. And it was a few years later before the unit opened. But
that is tremendous foresight, actually.
Yeah, actually, right.
Now, a few years ago, when the patients were coming here, some of the doctors and nurses who worked in the unit, they said they knew people treated them differently, treated the doctors and the nurses differently because they thought that they may be contagious. Right. Any truth to that? Any fear of that?
Well, there was a little bit of that, and there were folks who were afraid to send their children to school because the school was afraid that a child of an Ebola nurse or whatever was there. But I have to say that I think here in Nebraska, we handled it a lot better than a lot of places would. And in fact, that's one of the reasons we were able to build the unit in Nebraska, because we had so much support from the governor, the legislature, and the local officials in the city of Omaha. So I think we handled it better than most. I think with a new disease like that, there's always going to be that fear factor. My hope is that now that we've had a little bit of experience, people will be a little more relaxed next time.
Let me pull the word biosecurity out from your title, one of your titles. How prepared is the country for a bio attack?
So I think you can always say we could always be better prepared, and there's always more we can do. But I think we're far better prepared than we were 10, 15, 20 years ago. The CDC oversees an entity called the Strategic National Stockpile, which stockpiles drugs and vaccines. And the two main bioterror threats, we believe, are anthrax and smallpox. And the CDC has enough medical countermeasures in that stockpile to treat everyone in the United States for those two diseases. Now, you can always look beyond those two at other conditions, and there's always more preparation we can do. And that's part of what we do at the center, is try to drive that preparation. Because you have the center here, is Nebraska better protected, better equipped to handle it? Well, I like to think we are. You know, our biocontainment unit we're very proud of. It's the largest in the country, but with that said, that's 10 beds. And so, you know, if we had one victim, we're good. If we have two victims, we're good. If we have more than that, we're starting to get worried. And if we have more than 10, then obviously we need a solution beyond that. So I think we're better prepared than most. But you have a quarantine unit that's going to open up, correct? We do. Tell me about that. So we are building, and it's due to open next fall, the nation's first and only federal quarantine facility. So the CDC has powers to order federal quarantine, but heretofore most quarantines been done by the state, been carried out by the states. But the federal government feels they the need to have a quarantine unit, and they chose Nebraska for that unit. So what does it mean? I mean, walk me through what a quarantine is. Is it just basically a nice, secure facility where people can't get around? Well, so quarantine refers to well people. So these are people who, the people who we would put in quarantine are people who may have been exposed to a highly hazardous disease but are not yet sick. So they don't require hospital care. And in fact, for most conditions, they can be sent home. So for Ebola, for example, you don't become contagious until you're symptomatic. So if I trust the person and if they have a secure home to go to, I can send them home and I can have them take their temperature every day and report back if they get sick. But there are situations where maybe we don't trust the person, or maybe the person doesn't have a home to go to. Maybe their loved one was brought here from Africa to be put in the biocontainment unit for Ebola, but they have no local family. So we may want to quarantine them. But it's basically more like a hotel than it would be a hospital. They're staying there just to be observed. To make sure they don't get sick. So what keeps you up at night? I mean, is this, I mean, you would think it would be trouble sleeping knowing that this is always out there. You may have enough to deal with Ebola and smallpox, but who knows what's out there? Well, I think the disease we're talking about today, pandemic flu, is probably what worries me the most. And while I hope another epidemic or pandemic that severe never occurs, that's certainly something we worry about. We know some of these flu viruses in birds, in ducks, for example, can have mortality rates of 80 and 90% for the ducks. Now, the good news is those strains don't readily infect humans. But what I worry about is that someday, and again, I hope this never happens, someday a strain will emerge or evolve that has the affinity to infect humans, but the mortality rate of ducks. And again, I hope that never happens, but that's what keeps me up. I'm with you on that one, Doctor. Hey, thanks very much for joining us this morning and interesting insights. Thanks, Rob. Well, we're going to be right back with how outbreaks can impact businesses and how one local business weathered that storm a century ago. First, we have a reminder, your comments are an important part of the show. If you want to be heard, email them to news@ketv.com. Love hearing from you, and we'll be right back. You're watching KETV News Watch 7's Chronicle. This morning, we're talking about the 1918 flu pandemic. In just a matter of 12 months, it became the deadliest outbreak in recorded history. An Omaha company was caught up right in the middle of it. Physicians Mutual was 16 years old when the pandemic hit. Here to talk about its response and how it's still helping customers today is Bob Gunyam. Bob, you're Senior Vice President of Physicians Mutual. Thanks very much for being here. Thanks for having me. Take us back to 1918. I know you're not that old. So, I mean, but your company's history, and y'all talk about how the flu impacted it. What went around? Was it scary?
It was a scary time, and particularly for Physicians Mutual, because at that time we sold insurance to those in the medical profession, so the doctors, and so that's why we're called physicians as part of our name. And so those are the folks on the front line. And so while John mentioned about closing the dance halls and keeping separation to try to keep the pandemic at bay, That wasn't our case. And so by insuring the people that are on the front line, we were particularly exposed. And so it made it very challenging.
Could you prepare for, were they prepared for that at all? I mean, this, or did it just come out of the blue? It caught a lot of people by surprise.
Yeah, and so, no, we were not prepared for the full extent of what happened in 1918. In fact, we had to take loans out in order to make sure that we paid our claims. So it was a critical time for the company's history, and thank goodness that, we made a promise and we fulfilled that promise, because if we didn't, we wouldn't be here today.
So talk about taking out loans, and that seems a little odd that an insurance company would have to take out loans to cover its payments.
Yeah, well, the extent of the claims came in at a particular period of time, a short period of time, and you just didn't have, the cash flow, you didn't have the funds in order to pay them. And so we knew the importance of, getting these people back on their feet, getting the money that they needed. And so we did whatever we needed to do in order to make those payments.
16-year-old company, that's not very old. I mean, it seems like it was kind of a make or break time, if you will, for the company. I mean, what'd you do?
Yeah, and so basically it's making sure that, as I said before, that we fulfill our promise, right, and that we take the lessons learned and carry them forward. And so this is something that's been etched in the consciousness of the company. I'm here because people tell stories, decades after decades of what happened in 1918. And so we're reminded of the importance of keeping your promise, right, as well as I would say a big compliment to KTV and the Chronicle for putting the show together is it's a healthy reminder that things like this can happen. We have all these examples of, this is going to be the latest, the worst type of epidemic, a pandemic, and they don't come to pass. And you're like, well, so is it really possible? And so I think this is a healthy reminder to be prepared for the unexpected.
Well, thank you for that. But how do businesses prepare themselves now? Well, I mean, that kind of takeaway.
Yeah, well, for us, we've run models about how we would fare today if that pandemic happened in 2019. And we would do okay. I mean, we're in a much better position. Regulation for insurance carriers is much more robust back than it was back in the day. And so we have money, we have a whole profession that is looking at what do you anticipate for claims. And so, we're in the business of paying claims. So we know if someone's going to have the flu every year, but for these unexpected events, you have money above and beyond that to make sure that you're there to weather those, once in a lifetime type of events.
So is that basically a pandemic plan?
Correct. And so, for us, we're looking to see what the trends are. And so, having insureds across the country, are things, moving? Are you seeing cases, from the East Coast and greater occurrence in the Midwest? And so you're able to prepare that way. But for us, the most important role, because it's great to hear from Ted and John and how the people on the front end and how they react and how you get the treatment that you need. What we do is help to get the economy, get society back on its feet. So if whether you have insurance or not, you're going to get treated. But in order to get the hospitals paid and the people that have missed out on work to get back going again, that's where we are a vital part of bringing things back to normal.
Is there anything people can personally do?
The best advice, and I think Ted would agree, is what you do to prevent the flu today, just this year, are good things that will prevent in a pandemic. And so washing your hands, we all know people that maybe go to work that probably shouldn't.
Right.
Don't go to work if you're sick. And basically, a healthy lifestyle is going to put you in the best possible situation to weather, a new strain or to be the ones that could really fight it off.
Yeah, define that for somebody who wouldn't know briefly a healthy lifestyle.
It's if you're taking care of yourself and you're eating right and you're doing everything, you're having your regular physicals and all that, that just puts you in a better position to weather something that's unfortunate.
Right. All right. Hey, Bob, thanks very much for being here this morning. Good advice, and I'm glad physicians survive.
I am too.
Understand. All right. Remember, if you missed any part of the show or you want to watch it again, it's online at KETV.com. Just go to our homepage, click on the menu button, and then look for Chronicle. I'm Rob McCartney. Thanks for watching. We'll see you back here next Sunday morning for KETV News Watch 7's Chronicle.